Texas loses to Georgia 30-15. Very weird score. Did not come out with the fire intensity needed in this game. And actually, we might as well just start with the bad before we get to the good. That was the number one thing that obviously came out right away, and we were completely flat on the offensive side of the ball. Took us 2 quarters to start going. The offensive line got their ass completely kicked. I believe Georgia ended up with 8 sacks, 5 or 6 in the first half. Offensive line did play better in the second half, but still not good enough. Sark also did start to find out, hey, my running backs versus these linebackers are a mismatch, which they are versus any linebacker, honestly. I don't know any linebackers that can cover either of those 2 guys out of the backfield. And we missed our opportunities early, guys. There were opportunities there. We got that interception, and we didn't put any points on the board. Trey Wisner there, if he catches that football off of that, by the way, great play, like a flea flicker reverse to a screen, basically, that was a touchdown. There was no one within Trey Wisner's vicinity. So when those things happen versus a team as good as Georgia, and people, that's the thing that killed me. Should Texas have been favored in this game? Absolutely. But this Georgia team is still a top 4 team in the country, top 5 team in the country. They're legitimate. And we are back to square one in college football, guys, as a whole. There's no elite team this year. I think there's 4 teams, in my opinion, that have separated themselves. I think it's Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, and Oregon, just like at the beginning of the year. And then I think there's a drop-off. I have no clue who the 5th best team in the country is, but those are the 4 best. Right now, I would probably, if they all played their A game, I still think Texas is the best team in the country if they played their A game. That is a big if, because we did not see it tonight. And there's no excuse. There's no excuse. This was your biggest game, and you came out and looked like that on the offensive side of the ball. Unacceptable. Offensive line got their ass kicked. Kelvin Banks didn't have as bad of a game as they were making out to be. The first sack he gave up, and I'm not even going to put on him, Quinn Ewers had the ball for 4 seconds in his own end zone, stepped up, and Jalen Walker, I believe it was, laid on the ground and tripped up Quinn Ewers. That's not that bad of a sack. He got beat really bad by Michael Williams on one of the other times, but Cameron Williams had his by far his worst start on the right tackle position. That was a really bad game for Cameron Williams at the right tackle position. He got destroyed multiple times by multiple different people. Really bad game by him. I actually thought the left side, Kelvin Banks and Hayden Connor, played a pretty good game. I think Jake Majors was okay. The right side was not good, and we need to improve. And honestly, guys, I think I'm fine with getting our ass kicked tonight. You looked up and down our schedule from here on out. There's no team even close to replicate what Georgia can do. Not even Texas A&M can replicate that. They really can't. They have 1 guy on the outside. They don't have 3 to 4 guys like Georgia does. They have Nick Skouritson, who will probably give us issues, but it's also the last game of the season, so I expect this offensive line to be better than by then. And Texas A&M doesn't have as good of linebackers as Georgia does. Secondary is probably equal. But Georgia played an A game tonight. They're phenomenal. If they play like that throughout the season, they can easily win the national championship, and props to them. They came out and punched us in our mouth, and you could tell right away they had played a big game versus real competition in Alabama. Now, is Alabama great? No, they're probably like the 10th best team in the country, but they're still way better than anyone we've played. I think the best team we played is probably Michigan, and Michigan's probably like the 35th best team in the country. That's a big disparity. And you saw that. Now, I will say this, and we'll get into your comments first, and then we'll jump back into bad, I guess. We're kind of jumping all around, but it is what it is. Texas is just 2 more years away. Nah, I disagree with that. Completely disagree with that. That is completely overblown, in my opinion. You were shit the entire bed. Craig, it was the offensive line tonight. You could have put Arch Manning back there. You could have put Quinn Ewers back there. You could have been Patrick Mahomes back there. He had no time to throw, my man. There was 8 sacks. Like, what do you want him to do? I agree. Quinn was not great, but guess what? He played better than Carson Beck. Carson Beck was terrible tonight, if anyone didn't see. By the way, I was right on that guy. That guy's a fucking chokester. He is not good. I don't know why he's even being mentioned in getting drafted in the first 2 rounds. Carson Beck is not a good quarterback. This is crazy to me. Look at this. This is Carson Beck's stat line. 23 of 41 for 175 yards and 3 interceptions. Yeah, he was bad. But that has a lot to do with our defense. And our defense, not NFL, I don't know why I said that, but it is top 10. It is a top 10 defense. This Texas defense is a top 10 defense, and it really shows, guys. They were impressive the whole night. This game could have been 35-0 at halftime if we had a bad defense. Like, again, the offense completely shit the bed, and the defense keeps them to 23 points. And the longest drive, anyone want to know what the longest scoring drive for Georgia was? I believe the longest scoring drive for Georgia in the first half was 21 yards. The longest scoring drive for Georgia in the first half of this game, I believe, was 21 yards. I'm going to try to find that, but I know when I was looking at halves, I was like, what's the longest drive they've had? It can't be very much. I'm pretty sure the longest drive they've had all night or in the first half to score points for Georgia was 21 yards. So definitely great job by the defense. I mean, holding them to 30 points, good enough to win. It really was. Offense was not good enough. I did like what Steve Sarkisian did. He got flack on it for Twitter for putting Arch Manning in. I actually liked Arch Manning coming in, and he said it at halftime. I kind of just did it to calm Quinn down. Guys, multiple things can be true at one time. Quinn Ewers did not have a good game. Craig, you're 100% right on that. But the offensive line, was the worst offensive line performance in 2 years? I think 2 years. Guys, we played Will Anderson. Remember that Alabama defense in Quinn Ewers' freshman season? Will Anderson had 0 sacks on that day. 0. Anyone remember Alabama last year, how many sacks they had? They had 0. They had 7 or 8 sacks tonight. 7 or 8 sacks is what this team gave up. That is unacceptable. And then when the offensive line started to get better in the second half, Quinn was shell-shocked at that point, and he did not move in the pocket well. He escaped clean pockets sometimes. He did not step up in the pocket when plays were available. There were multiple plays in the second half. There are opportunities to force the ball downfield for Quinn Ewers if he is able to be composed and step up in the pocket. He did not do that because of the first half. What I will say is this game actually gave me more confidence for playing Georgia again, for the simple fact is we did start to find some rhythm in the second half. This reminds me so much of the Alabama-Georgia game. It's what it reminds me of. Alabama jumped on top of Georgia. Georgia came back, and we see what the real teams look like. Georgia's a far better team than Alabama. Alabama's not a college football playoff team right now. They're not. Georgia's a national championship winning type team. I think Texas, if they came out and played Georgia again, would do things differently in certain situations to help out their offensive line. I also think they know how to attack the defense now a little bit better. And I also think the offensive line would just play better naturally. They're not going to get their ass kicked like that again a second time. Pride gets in the way, especially when we're dealing with Kelvin Banks. Whatever you want to say about him, is going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. So it's frustrating. And guys, if this was a 14 playoff era, I'd be way more angry about this game because this would basically eliminate us from the college football playoff. We can still win a national championship. There's nothing tonight with the second half that we had that I think, no, we can't win a national championship. Now, if they would have just completely beat the shit out of us and it would have been like 41-7, I'd be out on national championship. I would say we're a college football playoff team and our best case scenario is probably Final Four, but I still believe we can be a national championship contender. I mean, our defense, I'm trying to think, and I was wrapping my head around this. That was, I mean, if that defense shows up week in and week out, it is the best Texas defense since 2009. It's the best Texas defense since 2009. Maybe Tom Herman's, his first year at Texas, that defense was pretty good too. They're in the running. That offense they had that year was abysmal, though. But this defense is special, guys. I mean, it really is. Carson Beck looked terrible tonight. And listen, is he an NFL quarterback? Yes. Is he a first-round quarterback? No. He's getting overhyped in that regard. But I think they held him to like 4.5 to 5 yards per attempt. If anyone wants to look up old defensive statistics, if you're holding anyone to 6.5 yards per attempt and under, that's considered elite. I believe Texas on the season is still holding teams under 5. That secondary is special, guys. We have 2 lockdown corners in Malik Muhammad and Jahdae Barron. We have Anthony Hill, who's playing out of his godforsaken mind right now. I don't know what's happened the last 2 weeks with Anthony Hill, but Anthony Hill is special, man. And that was known, but he's just playing like it now. Like, I don't know if Gabe Eichert saying and tweeting the things he did woke up Anthony Hill to play to like a complete level that I didn't think he was going to get till next year, but he's playing special. Colin Simmons played another good game. Baron Sorrell was phenomenal tonight. The defense was really good. They kept us in the game. They kept it close. They destroyed Carson Beck. I guarantee, and that's the thing. People are not going to be able to duplicate what we did because when we went man on certain plays, you don't have Jahdae Barron, you don't have Malik Muhammad, you don't have Michael Tapp, you don't have Andrew Makuba. Most teams don't have that. And whatever the spread is, I'm going to let people know right this now. When we play Vanderbilt next week, I'm taking Texas. Texas is going to beat the living dog shit out of Vanderbilt next week. If you don't believe me, watch the game. They're going to. Vanderbilt is the most inconsistent, weird team I've ever seen. So I'm sure they'll come out and fight us a little bit in the first half, but we'll beat them by at least 3 scores. It'll be 17 plus points. They almost lost to Ball State today. I'm pretty sure they were tied at halftime. I know that. But yeah, it's a disappointing game, guys. It definitely is a disappointing game, but I'm not super concerned. I'm really not, because there's not that many teams that can just line up and push that offensive line around. I'm trying to think around the country. Oregon's not going to be able to do that. Ohio State, I don't think is going to be able to do that because JT and Jack Sawyer are not those guys. They're just not. I've watched enough of them. They're good players. They're not great players. Is there a possibility in a one-off scenario they could turn in a game like that? Yeah, I guess. But especially on our schedule currently, guys, Vanderbilt can't do that. Kentucky might be able to a little bit, but they don't have any offense worth a shit. Florida Florida's bad. I just don't see any teams being able to do it, except maybe Texas A&M at the end of the year and possibly Arkansas. But I think this was a wake-up call. And this showed Texas, like, listen, you can be ranked number 1. You can look great. But until you get punched in the mouth, how do you respond? We will find out. You play Vanderbilt, then you have a bye week. This will be the delineation game for me, guys. I said we'll kill Vanderbilt. If they are who I think they are, this Texas team, which I still think they can win a national championship, they will go out there and destroy Vanderbilt. If they aren't, kind of like Alabama, if you guys saw that, Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. Embarrassing fashion, got dominated on the defensive side of the ball versus that Vanderbilt offense. They came back the next week and almost lost to South Carolina. Texas, got somewhat embarrassed versus Georgia. And then they're going to play Vanderbilt. If you are a national championship team, you win this game 41-17, 41-20, somewhere in that realm. If they do that, this is how I'm going to act on every postgame the rest of the year, because that is how national championships teams respond, guys. That is the most important thing. This team has heart. They have culture. You see that. They responded in the second half of this game. They could have quit 23-0. A lot of teams would have been like, yeah, we don't have it tonight. They're destroying us. We came out, we scored. We came out, got that interception. By the way, that was the right call. Do I love the way they went about it? No. And do I like the way Texas fans reacted? Absolutely not. That was classist by Texas fans. They should have not been throwing stuff. But guess what? Was it a horrific call? Absolutely it was. The offensive player initiated contact, turned around to catch the ball, and they called a pass interference. It was not a pass interference. I'm glad they got the call right. And I will say this officiating crew was not good the whole game. Officiating crews around the college football landscape have not been good, honestly. They made some bad calls on both sides tonight. I'm glad they did get that one right, because that was the right call. And Jahdae Barron played a phenomenal game. I wish he could have gotten the end zone there. I know he scored anyways. But it just would have been cool to save us another minute and a half. Maybe had given us a little bit more of a chance. But we are going to have to figure it out, because if we do play Georgia again, and there's a high likelihood we will, how are we going to stop them from getting that type of pressure? Either our tackles are going to have to play better. I think if Kelvin Blanks just replicates what he did in the second half, he'll be fine. I think the first half was just bad. But Cameron Williams is going to have to get better from this whole game. Cameron Williams had a bad game from start to finish. It was his worst game by far as a starter at right tackle. How are they going to help? Are they going to chip more? Are they going to send more guys in motion? You know, that's the thing they can do too. You can send guys in motion to chip. You can have Gunnar Helm kind of crack back or block off of his route. When he goes out for a route, run down the line first and hit, and then go into your route. You can do that. I loved what Sark figured out. I did like how he realized, hey, these guys can't cover Jaden Blue or Trey Wise around in the backfield. So I think you'll see that more. Isaiah Bond, sit him out next week. sit him out. We need him healthy. We don't have anyone that explosive. Matthew Golden is a very good player. I like Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden is an Isaiah Bond. We don't have anyone that is that nimble and explosive. So if he is not 100% healthy, do not play him versus Vanderbilt. We should beat Vanderbilt. I'm not really concerned about Vanderbilt. We definitely need him. That is someone that we need 100% healthy going forward, because that is the big difference from this Texas offense to last year's. This Texas offense is not as explosive. I think Ryan Wingo will get us there by the end of the year. I also think if Isaiah Bond is healthy, we can be closer to that. But right now, we just aren't, and especially with the Isaiah Bond injury. So again, sit him out if he is not 100% healthy.